accidents are one of the most common causes of traumatic brain injury. For many, time heals wounds. But are they ever the same person?
My personality has changed beyond belief.
Their families will just feel that they've now got a person who just isn't the person that they had.
Damage to a victim's frontal lobes is revealing some remarkable changes in their personality. Scientists are now delving deeper into the brain to help patients regain control of their lives.
It's a familiar story. A group of teenagers driving home after a night of drinking. In the early hours of the morning, the female driver loses control on this road. And the horrific crash that followed changed one man's life forever.
Sam Howe was cut from this wreckage and airlifted to the Alfred Hospital.
We kept hearing reports on the radio that someone had been killed in a car accident, and you didn't know whether it was him or... It was just a fear of the unknown.
Sam suffered bleeding and broken bones, but the real toll of the crash was his brain injury.
The brain has a consistency of butter and it's somewhat mobile within the skull. So if it's travelling fast and then it suddenly comes to a halt, it's thrown around within the skull, and so you get forces going back and forth across the brain and rotating it on its axis.
Early it wasn't a good prognosis. They said to us he may need 24-hour nursing for the rest of his life.
Swelling meant that part of Sam's skull had to be removed. He lay in hospital on life support in a coma.
He woke up after 17 days. It was like the lights were on but nobody was home. He opened his eyes but there wasn't much response.
I really can't remember much. The medication gave me substantial memory loss.
Unable to talk or walk, Sam faced months of therapy at Epworth's rehabilitation unit.
I just kept telling myself that it's not real. You're in a dream world. The personal cost was great. It was almost unbearable.
There were triumphs and there were setbacks. But eventually, Sam edged his way back to health.
The first thing I would say that helps me rehabilitate the most is Photoshop. It's my me time. It's when I get to relax. Also, I enjoy playing guitar. It allows me to work on my fine motor skills.
Whilst many of Sam's motor skills have recovered, doctors have been unable to assess the full extent of his brain injury until now. This is the latest technology called diffusion tensor imaging.
It's been the development of computer power that has allowed us to capture these new forms of images that are telling us a lot more subtle information that we just weren't able to look at once upon a time. This looks at the microscopic water molecules between these fibres of white matter. And this actually says, yes, there is some function in these fibres, but as we go across this band, we can see gaps. And this is telling me, even though the fibres are there, these fibres aren't very functional.
So would you say that there's a significant loss there?
It looks to me like there's a significant loss there, yeah.
This world-class imaging allows doctors to visualise microscopic damage in the brain. This could lead to more effective treatments for patients in the future.
We're understanding better that there is an influx of certain calcium and other ions into the nerve cells, and there are pharmacological interventions being trialled to see if they can stop that influx. That's just one example.
That was really Take two. Dad jokes. Nothing quite like them.
Today, Sam's scans have confirmed what doctors had suspected about the extent of his brain injury.
Just paying attention is quite difficult now. It takes a lot more effort to think about anything. It takes more effort to plan, to organise. It takes a lot more effort to make jokes.
You're still very funny.
I know. It takes a lot more effort to be modest.
Whilst he retained his sense of humour, Sam did sustain damage to his prefrontal cortex, the areas that control behaviour, emotions and inhibitions. This damage led to profound changes in Sam's personality.
I can't cry. I mean, my inability to find that emotional release has taken quite a toll on me. It's basically meant that I've had to bottle up a whole lot of my emotions.
Good job! Great!
My patience is now a shell of what it used to be.
Need to play them at the same time.
I'm all about instant gratification now. And that's a real problem.
They're all different emotions, and as you can see, they've been...
Another issue affecting many brain-injured patients is that they lose their ability to empathise with others, resulting in painful relationship breakdowns.
If you have someone who you love, who no longer is sensitive to your moods, is egocentric, talks about themselves all the time, says things that are inappropriate, all these kinds of things that make it very difficult to be with them socially, then it's very hard on the families.
Normally, a person shown a photo of an angry face would react by furrowing their brow. But for the first time, these researchers have shown that brain-injured patients respond quite differently.
A lot of people with traumatic brain injury don't actually recognise if somebody else is looking angry or fearful. They just don't recognise it. And you can imagine how disruptive that is. This is their brow response to the angry expression. And you'll see here, they don't respond at all.
That's quite different, isn't it?
Yeah.
In the past, there's been some success retraining these social skills in people with autism and schizophrenia.
So the idea here is
But now, Professor McDonald is trying it with brain-injured patients.
we find that most people with a brain injury are good at recognising happy because we've got that great big sort of silly grin. Things like surprise, you have dilated eyes. With anger, you've got a furrowed brow. So it's a case of training them to focus on the areas of the face that are most relevant for that particular emotion.
The hope is that this new research and technology will help people like Sam.
He's back driving, he's studying part-time. He will hopefully gradually rebuild a new social network and ideally be able to work at least part-time somewhere in the media industry.
What lies ahead is a big old mystery. I still feel like I am a rehabilitation person, and I feel that I will be for a few years yet.